Bow. Hello, Facebook land. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in. The water's fine. It's a beautiful summer day in the Pacific Northwest. And guess what? I'm only 2 days from a big road trip. I'm going to be leaving Washington State here on Saturday morning at the crack of dawn. And we're going to be traveling. Our first stop is going to be to Casper, Wyoming, where I'm going to be visiting a local friend there, my good buddy Zach Hansen. Shout out to you if you're watching. And Cole Critchen is my guest for Sunday night. I'm actually going to be live and in person with Cole in Casper, Wyoming. That's going to be a great show you don't want to miss. He's doing some great work in his community with the local youth. Getting him, mentorship, a little bit of getting him some sponsors and some ambassadorship and stuff going on. Great exposure there. And then from there, we're going to head over through Iowa and then back up to Minnesota to visit friends and family. My wife and I are both from central Minnesota, the Brainerd Lakes area, and we'll be cruising through there for a while. And then we're going to do a quick side trip from Minnesota out to New England, and we're going to run into Heidi Munson out there. We're going to do a show probably Thursday night. I think it's the 9th of July. That week, we're going to be live from New Hampshire. So we're doing a cross-country from coast-to-coast trip in the next few weeks. We're going to make it happen. We're living large. We're going to go see the world, and we're going to meet all kinds of Live Large fans out there and some incredible folks. So if you guys haven't already, you know the routine. Let us know where you're watching from. Right here in the comments, drop it in there. Just get in there and chime in. Say, I'm watching from New York. I'm watching from California. I'm watching from Minnesota. I'm watching from British Columbia, Alaska, wherever you're watching from. Let us know where you're watching. The reason we want to know, it helps us pick some content. A lot of times, if I know we got a bunch of people watching from one specific state or one specific region of the country, it triggers thoughts for me to bring you some new exciting content. All right, guys, one thing I want to let you know. So we got David Cook here, says, how's it going? It's going fantastic, David. Thanks for jumping in. Let us know where you're watching from, buddy. I know where you're watching from, but let everybody else know. Here's the thing, guys. We got some new logos coming up here. I'm working on it. We're going to get some new hats embroidered out with this logo, JFL, Live Large. Some new exciting hats coming. The other thing I want to show you is this awesome design. This is available right now on livelargeitemorder.com. You can get out there and buy this shirt logo right now. Men's sizes, women's sizes. The best part, people, this show is about safety. It's about education. It's about growing the sport. And that's what I'm all about. And guess what? 100% of the profits that normally would come back to me, that's all going right over to ARI, the American Institute for Avalanche Research and Education. They're based out of Colorado, their office is. But we're doing a Live Large University scholarship program for motorized recreation. And we're going to have recreational scholarships. We're going to have professional level scholarships available. And all the proceeds from your purchase order, you're going to get a cool big deal shirt. We're going to make it, the BRAP shirts available, Live Large University. And all those proceeds going into the community again. We're reinvesting. That's what we do here, guys. We are doing it. We're reinvesting. We're investing back in all of you. You can supply and support. If you want to apply for a scholarship, you can send in some information too. I've almost got that ready. We got a link that we're going to have available soon. Let me shut off the music as we wind this up. And then the last thing I want to talk to you about quick here before I bring on my buddy Jake on is we're going to show you this. We've got the Woody's Racing. So Woody's Racing, coincidentally, a Snowcross race team, just like we're talking about tonight about Snowcross racing. They sponsor the show, and tonight they're sponsoring, and they're going to give away a hat and some Idahoan potatoes, some samples of Idahoan potatoes, a couple of bags of those, and just for sharing, just for watching. So I know this is not our normal night on Sunday night, but we love putting these bonus episodes out there when we got some great content that's time sensitive, that's timely. We wanted to work Jake in. But right now, if you watch the show, you share the show out, let your friends know about the cool things going on in the snowmobile industry, even over the summer months. So here we go. We're going to bring Jake on here in 3, 2, and 1. How's it going, Jake?
Hey, how you doing, John?
Good. You living large out there in the what are you, Midwest technically, I guess. Michigan is it, right?
Yeah, the Midwest. We're living super large, man. Appreciate you for having me on, man.
Yeah. So have I told you, Jake, what Live Large is all about yet? I mean, I think we talked about it on the phone, right?
Yeah, yep. It's
all right,
awesome, man.
Let me remind the viewers quick. So Live Large is all about making the most of every day, living life to the fullest, and making a difference in people's lives. And you know what, Jake, as I've gotten to know you and over this discussion that we've had, is like you are the epitome of what Live Large is all about. You're one guy out there trying to make a difference in this world. And sometimes just a simple idea is something that's really kind of infectious and it grows the sport and the community and does great things, especially for our youth that we have. And I'll just let everybody know that I personally came across one of your posts. I don't even remember where I saw it, but I saw your page that you have, the Snowcross Poster Project, and I came across it and I thought, like, what a brilliant idea. Let me reach out to this guy and get in touch and see if we can give you some additional exposure. So here we are tonight. So say hi to the audience and then tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, where do you live? What you're up to, and then just a quick high level intro of what life's about in Michigan and who you are, and then we'll dive into the topics.
Well, what's up, guys? If you don't know already, my name is Jake, Jake Yurk. Yeah, I'm right here in just south of Flint, Michigan, Grand Blanc, and professional snowcross racer in the wintertime. And so, yeah, luckily Jon had me on here to talk about the Snowcross Poster Project, and super excited to be on here and just spread the word a little bit more. Yeah, we're trying to, like you said, we're trying to change people's lives for the better and impact as many people as we can, and specifically children, snowmobile industry is an industry that I'm extremely passionate about, and I think it's important that the kids of the sport stay involved and they get excited about things like this. So yeah, that's what it's all about.
Well, and I'm sure you have, fond memories. Like as you were talking, and you and I were talking on the phone. Is you're still, from my perspective, a very young 23 years old in life, and you're full fledged adult in the real world. But you've only been on this planet for 23 years, and it wasn't that many years ago that you were a child or a kid yourself, right? And you think about your personal experience of growing up in the snowmobile industry and the people you looked up to. So let's flash back for a minute. When you were a kid, before you even got into racing, who were some of the names in the industry that you just looked up to and aspired to?
Man, I remember when I was really little. I mean, I grew up in a family that rode snowmobiles all the time, but we didn't do anything racing wise. We just did, we rode the trails. So we've got a cabin in the Upper Peninsula, and I was always that kid that wanted to go jump, and I'm like, hey, we got to go find a jump today. Every Sunday was let's go to the jumping hill, roll our sled down the hill. And I would always watch, the snowcross races. And my dad was a huge Blair Morgan fan. So,
nice.
He would always talk about Blair and, how he's the greatest. And then, Tucker came on, and we would watch, they used to make those old reruns of the whole season.
Yeah.
And, in one disc. And so we'd sit there and watch those. And I just remember, Ross Martin obviously was always there. Right when Tim was kind of getting his championship, and a little bit before that, man, TJ Gula.
Dude, you're naming all the names of the guys I used to follow when I was probably your age. So
yeah, it's so cool. And I always thought, man, I mean, I always raced dirt bikes when I was a kid, and I was like, man, it'd be so cool to get into that. But we go, we don't know how. You know what I mean? There's how do you do it? And
yeah,
it was just, I always looked up to those guys. It was fun being a kid, but it's cool to be able to live that experience now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so as we get into the rest of the story here, I just want to remind the folks who are watching, if you haven't already, drop in the comments where you're watching from. Thank you for that. And then now's the time to get some shares out there, guys. Like if you haven't shared it to your personal page, some of your club pages, different sled pages, it's a perfect time to do it because we're just about to get into the good stuff here. And so Jake, we were talking about you being a kid, growing up and kind of seeing these snowcross racers. A couple of fun facts for you that I don't think I shared with you yet is Tucker Hibbert's first ever X Games race that he raced and won, coincidentally, where he was racing side by side in the same race with his dad, was in Mount Snow, Vermont in 2000 Winter X Games, and yours truly was there to watch it live.
Really?
Yeah, that was an amazing race. So to date myself, I have somewhere, I don't even know if we even own it, so I think we must have it. Somewhere I think we had a VHS tape recorded of the ESPN Winter X Games on TV, and we actually saw ourselves in our big furry Minnesota rabbit fur hats with the big flappers on it in the audience waving at the crowd. So yeah, I was on TV back in 2000. That's what made me famous. That's really what put me out there.
Well, that's why you wear those big hats and stuff, so you can see when the camera pans. You can see yourself. Hey.
Exactly. Like in Vermont, nobody else was wearing the big rabbit fur hats except for us. We were the ones that looked like the folks from Fargo, North Dakota, right?
It's really funny. My mom, she always wears a lime green coat to all the snowcross races.
Oh,
So
nice.
we can always see when we're
Pick her
watching
up.
back, hey, there she is, the stands, just like that. You know what I mean?
Perfect,
Very cool.
perfect. And so, now you're in a position. Let's talk a little bit about your race career quick. We'll talk about the poster project in just a minute, but, how many years have you been racing? When did you start snowcross racing? At what age? And then let's talk a little bit about that evolution of your racing career here. We'll kind of go through it, fairly high level. We'll get to the poster project, and then we'll go back and talk about some of the key highlights of some of your championships that you've participated in, and maybe a couple of mishaps you've had in the end. We'll get to that towards the end of the show. But I know we talked about you had a couple of really big spills over the years that we want to get into to kind of share your experience and what you learned from it, the safety equipment that you're using, which is always great and educational. So just give us a high overview of your racing career and kind of the ages and kind of where you've gotten to now quick.
Yeah, well, like I said, I was never a snowcross racer as a young kid. I was always a dirt bike guy, and like I said, I mean, I just always loved jumping. And then we had these neighbors up north at our cabin, and they'd be up riding with us, and then one weekend they'd be gone. We got to talk, and they're like, "Yeah, we're riding the snowcross races on the Michigan circuit," and I'm thinking, "Wow, that's crazy," you know what I mean? And so I went to a race with them, and I got to see what it was all about. And that was back when, like he was on a 2006 440 IQ. It was the good old days. And so I got to go watch it, and I'm like, man, this is something we got to get into. And so my dad and I, we went a few weeks later. We took my 550 fan. Coincidentally, I rode a 550 fan, perfect for the fan class.
Yep.
And I won my first race. Just it was beginner's luck, because then the second race I got third, and then the final I got like fifth or sixth, got crashed and all this. But it kind of took off from there. I was 14 at that time, and so that was almost 10 years ago. And yeah, it took off from there. We bought our neighbor's 440 Polaris,
Nice.
and we raced that. Yeah, we raced that in the regionals. I just remember thinking, this is the sweetest sled I have ever seen, and I got to race it. And yeah, and so before we knew it, we tried a national. We went to Bessemer. I don't know if you remember, Bessemer, Michigan, up in the UP was one of the nationals.
Okay.
Crazy track. They had like the famous Dirty Dozen, huge downhill whoop section.
Nice.
That was our first national. I ended up winning and getting a third. And then we kind of kept trying to do more nationals, and before we knew it, we were battling for a sport championship. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
and then got picked up by Christian Brothers. Rode for them for 3 years,
Nice.
and that was in the pro light class. And now we're with National Motorsports in the pro. So
Awesome. That kind of brings us
yeah,
right up to where we're at today. And like I said, we'll dive back into some details there in a little bit. But let's talk a little bit about this poster project. Again, this is really, it stood out to me because, something, as you and I have gotten to know each other and you've seen a few of my shows in the past, and, that like I'm huge on community service and supporting the sport as a whole and stuff too. And it really stood out to me that someone would take the time out of their day and out of their life and out of their riding career and do something like this for the community stuff too. So it really stood out to me as a noble project, and it made me reach out to you and ask you to come on the show and talk more about it. But take us back to kind of the concept, the inception of this concept. Was it, sitting around a campfire? Were you at a racetrack? Were you just bored over the summer? Like, what triggered this thought process that this was a thing and something you should take on? And kind of how did the ball start rolling with it? Give us kind of the start to get us into it a little bit and see how it goes.
well, so I had just gotten back from the snowcross season, and at that time I was kind of frustrated and kind of down that the season had got canceled, whatever. And things kind of started to COVID-19. It's that was huge. So we headed home, and we had just got back from an out west trip. We went and rode in the mountains, me and a couple of racers. And I get home, and nobody's working. The state is completely shut down,
Yeah.
and so you can't go do anything. Everything's shut down. So my dad wasn't even working. I helped him out a lot in the summer, and so I was basically like, yeah, well, it's time to start training. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And I'm trying to think of ways. I'm like, I should try to help the sport somehow, right? Let's help grow the sport. And then you from there you start snowballing ideas, right? And I mean, I was literally just at my kitchen table with my family and just kind of snowballing ideas. And before I knew it, I'm like, hey, I want to help the kids, right? That's the future of the sport, you know. And so let's do something for the kids. And just with this whole COVID thing going, you know, school got canceled, and I can just, you know, I know there's kids that are like they want to go outside, and they're like parents are like, we can't go outside, we can't go do stuff. And so I thought it'd be really cool to, you know, to send them some kind of care package, just to remind them, hey, you know, we're still going to be riding snowmobiles next year. You know, you're still going to be able to
Yeah.
take your sled out next winter because you know there's no COVID in the woods. So,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I just wanted to kind of give them a friendly reminder, and posters seem to work great for that. You know, I know
Yeah.
there's a lot of kids that are big fans of snowcross, so
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
know I
kind
know
of
as I was growing up and even into my early 20s, I like every time I'd go to a snowcross race, I'd get autograph posters and slap them up either in my room or my garage or whatever, depending on how old I was, and that kind of thing too. And so it always was meaningful, especially when you have an autograph poster that's personalized with something, so either a note on it or that kind of thing. And so, one thing you touched on here, but let's go back and focus on a little bit more is, the folks who are watching tonight and, who'll be watching this over the next week is, they may not be aware that, COVID-19 obviously affected the whole world, but it also very much cut your snowcross season short, right? And so why don't you talk to us a little bit about maybe the moment or the day or where you were at the day that it was announced that, snowcross was canceling the rest of the season and what that meant to you personally with your pursuit of the championships and everything. So,
well, it's funny you say that because that day was it was a crazy day. So I ended up getting injured at Deadwood, South Dakota, and so I was out. I missed two events, and then I was set to come back for the Michigan National and the Lake Geneva National.
okay.
And so we were good to go. We were driving to Michigan, and you know we started kind of. It seems like in a matter of 2 or 3 days, COVID-19 went huge, and it became a global pandemic. And so we're driving to Michigan, and we're like, man, this is weird. You know, like they've announced Supercross is canceled, and everybody's like, yeah, but they're not going to cancel Snowcross. You know, so anyway, I wake up race morning, and I I woke up and I was like it just like it doesn't feel like race day. You know, I mean, I woke up to a lot of race days in my career, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's just does not feel like race day. And so we get to the track, everything's good, and I'm like hanging out with the guys that that run ISOC and before the drivers meeting and everything, and I'm like, this still like I don't think this has happened, you know, and you know, to my well, not to my surprise, about 10 minutes later, they got a text, hey, the governor just shut the state down.
Oh my gosh.
Races Everything was set up. They had already been practicing. Proman had just got off the track from practice, and they had to shut the whole thing down. So it was just a really crazy day, and honestly, it was a huge bummer for me because it was a long road back from recovery and a lot of hard work and looking forward to coming back strong, and then it just got shut down. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and for the irony of it to be shut down the day and the time that you guys were legit in the middle of a race series, and I chatted
yeah,
with the team Woodies actually. We had them on right after the COVID shutdown happened, and they described the same thing that they were literally either just about to get to the race line and then boom, it was gone, it was done,
it
just
was
like that.
crazy, man.
Yeah,
I've
and
never
so
experienced anything like that.
yeah, and I think, whether it be the community as a whole or you guys and everybody was impacted in their own way with this COVID situation. And ultimately that got you, and here's what I've discovered, right? Is, you know, adversity drives creativity, right? Is, like I can speak for myself and a lot of other things, right? Is like at the point that we are pushed to a breaking point and we're no longer allowed to find the path that we thought we were on, there's folks like you and for like me who, you don't accept no for an answer, right? And so you find alternate paths to
Yeah,
get
you got to
to
get creative.
you got to get somewhere in life, right? And you can't just stop and drop everything and sit there and be a victim, right? And
Yeah.
for those who want to make a difference in the world, a small thing like a COVID pandemic is not going to get in the way. And that really is what brought us to this. Is you sat there, you were brainstorming, you got this out there, and so give us some examples of the messages you're writing on these posters and how you're getting connected with the kids and kind of tie in then who the other racers are that you're partnering with too. So just walk us through some additional details on the project.
Yeah. So basically, I contacted just pretty much every pro I knew, besides the ones that were overseas, because with COVID-19, I can't really get their stuff. I've been actually in contact with a few people that are able to get me some posters uh, from their teams.
Hmm.
So they won't be signed, but I mean, it'd be cool for a kid to get an Elias Issuel poster. You know what I mean? Pro champ. So,
Yeah.
uh, so I just contacted all the pros that I knew, and I'm like, hey, listen, I'm doing this project, and I would love to, have your signed poster as a part of this package, and I mean, obviously, I mean, who's going to say no to that, right? Everybody's like, man, that's sweet, good idea, and
Yeah.
we want to be involved. And yeah, so basically, I'm collecting those along with my own, and then in each package, so it's going to be, not every kid is going to get 30 posters of
Yeah. Yeah.
pros. It'll be kind of randomized, but yeah, so I'll be including a personalized letter that I'm going to write to them, and it's going to vary definitely, with each letter, but I'm going to change it up and just try to spread a little bit of joy. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what kids need right now, because they're experiencing something that they're experiencing something that they've never experienced, and they're never
Yeah.
going to experience it. And I think it's probably hitting a lot of them pretty hard. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
along with that, I've been fortunate enough to gather some sponsors to help cover the shipping costs and everything, because the shipping costs are going to add up very fast.
I bet. Yeah.
So, yeah, I've been fortunate enough to get some sponsors of the project, and so I'll be including some stickers and swag from
Yeah.
them.
Why
And,
don't you talk right
and
now about who those sponsors are that are supporting your funding for the shipping? I'd love to give them some recognition. So,
yeah, perfect. So first we got Schaefer's Oil.
okay.
They're sponsors of Zamster Motorsports. A lot of them are sponsors of my team, and then so I know them and have their connection. And Schaefer's Oil has been great. I mean, I use all their stuff all the time. They got good products, and Rock Speed FX also. Um, Chris and the guys over there, they got the handguards and the traction products and stuff like that. And then Stud Boy Traction with the stud. They do studs and carbides, and everybody knows Stud Boy Traction. They're kind of like the staple of
Yeah.
studs and carbides, them and Woodies. And so, yeah, Stud Boy. And we got CNA Pro Skis. And I found that CNA, they like to be involved in a lot of different things like this, which is very, very cool. And so I'm happy to be working with them. Some local friends of mine, actually, Great Lakes Diving and Salvage, Tommy and Wendy, they live up in Gaylord, Michigan, and I've been friends with them for years. And yeah, they hopped on board with the project too, and yeah, very, very thankful for them too.
Awesome.
And yeah, so Studboy Rocks, Schaefer's, CNA, Great Lakes Diving and Salvage, and yeah, we're actually. I've had a bunch of people reaching out to me too, so I might have a couple more that
Nice.
that are kind of TBD.
Yeah.
But
Very cool.
yeah, very, very cool. So
Cool.
awesome.
Let's talk about how you're getting in touch with the kids and the fans, right? What are you using to do the just to reach out to them? Is the Snowcross Racing page partnered with you in any way, shape, and form? Are you doing it through your own pages and platforms, or like what's your basic communication tool to get the word out that you guys are doing this?
So I've been doing it. I created that page. I've been doing it on all three of my social media platforms, and then Instagram, Facebook, and Snowcross did throw a post out there for me.
Perfect.
So that probably got a lot of attention too.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just kind of been the racers that are involved, trying to get them to promote it, and kind of word of mouth through Facebook.
Yeah.
Just
And so
sharing and stuff
yeah,
like that.
so in our post here, I currently put it in there. It doesn't necessarily tag it right away when we're here live, but as soon as the show's done, I'll go in there and edit it, and there'll be a tag in the communication about this video of the Snowcross Poster Project, right? Will be tagged in the post that we're making here. And what I would encourage
Okay.
people to do is they can click on that, go to your page that you're doing this, and then I'm assuming they can just send you a private message through there if they want to be part of this.
Oh yeah, for sure. So it's super easy. I set up a separate email account, and
Okay.
so all you've got to do is email. It's 727projects@gmail.com. All the info is on the social media page, but
Perfect.
you just email that with the first name, and the address, and like the age of who would like care package. And
Yeah.
I got it in my notes, and we're good to go.
Yep.
So
That's
very
awesome.
easy, one click.
Cool,
So
man. Like, really proud of you for what you're doing there. It's great. And, not only are you doing something good for the community and the fans, but I think what you're doing is you're inspiring, this is just me speaking here, but I think it's guaranteed to be true, is you're inspiring your, call them your coworkers, your co-racers, if you will. By stepping up like that to the community, you saw how quickly everybody around you wanted to be part of it, right? And
yeah.
so congratulations by just, building the whole community stronger, making that connection with the race fans stronger, and just building our sport of snowmobiling into frankly what it should be, a very positive role model in the industry. So
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. I mean, I think that I hope that this snowballs into more things like this. I myself would love to get involved in even more stuff and make this poster project an annual thing.
yeah,
That would be great. And if that snowballs more ideas for more ways that we can help the industry, then that's wonderful.
it's perfect,
So,
perfect, perfect. Anything else on the poster project you want to touch on before we dive into some other stuff?
just a reminder, 727projects@gmail.com.
Okay.
Just name and address. That's all you need, and I'll get you hooked up with a package of some pro racer autographs and a
Yeah.
letter and some stickers. Be really cool.
Perfect, perfect. And so the next thing that you and I chatted about on the phone that I want to dive into a little bit is, your race career and kind of the ups. Let's call it the ups and downs of your race career, right? Like we've got the highs and the lows here. I'll touch on all four of them from my memory and from my notes here, but I'll let you kind of decide how you want to lay them out for everybody. If it's, if they'll alternate, if you want to cover kind of the high points first, the low points last, whatever order you want to go in. But as we talked about it, you had a couple of different meaningful moments in your race career from a highlight standpoint, right? You've had some, championships that you've been top ranked in, and some of the championships that have come on. You've been in different series. You've been a pro rider. You've been a pro light rider. So those are some of the highlights that I know you're going to dive into tonight. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've already referenced it once tonight, is you've had a few accidents, right, in your career that have slowed you down, but opportunities to learn from them, educate yourself and maybe the community around you about things like maybe it's technique, maybe it's some safety equipment, maybe it's about riding smarter. I'll let you kind of go over it here, but let's talk about the highs and lows of your careers, and you take and run with it here, and I'll interrupt you if I need to ask some follow-up questions. So.
Well, I mean, as any racer knows, there's so many highs and lows in a racer's career. I mean, you're never going to be on cloud nine the whole time, and you're never going to be at the bottom the whole time. You're always going to be up and then down and up and then down, and that's why it's so hard mentally. That's why it's so important to have a strong mind and to stay focused on the goal, right? And it's easy to get swayed, so you've just got to kind of stay on the straight and narrow there. And yeah, we've had a lot of setbacks, but the good times, they make it worth it. When you work from that injury, and then it pays off with a win or a championship or whatever. It's the best feeling in the world when you get some positive results. So yeah, it kind of started when I was young. I got hurt really bad in the sport class. Like my first sport race, we came from junior class, and we were racing the junior class all year, and then we moved up. And we're like, yeah, we're gonna move up for the last race at Lake Geneva and just see if we can't run with these guys. It's kind of funny looking back at like how serious things were in your head, and
Yeah.
I look back and I'm like, man, it was like should have been all for fun, But so we're at Lake Geneva, and I just remember it was just super wet and hot, and so we raced the junior class, and then the last day we decided let's bump up the sport, and I was really nervous, but the best way to break the nerves is to rip a hole shot. So I ripped the hole shot first heat, and I just remember just riding like a total squid all over the place.
Nice.
We won our first heat race ever, and I was super pumped. And then the second heat race, I was like, after you get that first one out of the way, you feel like you're on top of the world.
Hmm.
And so then I had the confidence, and everything was great. But well, in that second heat race, I was out front leading, and then had a crash. I got back up in about third place, and kind of just a tip over. Lake Geneva gets really, really rough. So obviously when you're that young, your suspension's kicking you all over the place. You don't know what you're doing, and so I lost a couple positions. I got right up, and then I basically fell off like two corners later, we're going up the hill at Geneva, and if anybody watching knows Geneva, I mean, it's super gnarly up the hills and a lot of steep whoops. And I got kicked off the side, and my leg went right into my tunnel and got bound up in the suspension. And this was when I was 15 years old, and so kind of just to take everybody back to the moment, it was really weird, and I don't mean to like gross anybody out, but I'm like I just landed on my butt, and I looked down and my leg is just completely spun around, and I couldn't feel anything. No pain. I was just sitting there like my leg was looked like it just got mangled, and I just looked at the guy. I'm like, hey man, I need an ambulance.
Yo, I need some help over here, right?
Messed up right now, man. And so, they got me on the stretcher, and it turns out I messed up my knee really bad. I tore three out of the four ligaments that hold your knee together,
Yeah.
um, and plus the meniscus. So mangled it, and that was like my first experience with a really bad injury.
Yeah.
That was like that was like when you're getting fast, and then it kind of hits you in the face, like whoa, what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Well, and sometimes that's kind of life in general, right? Is like you get a lot of momentum, you're moving fast, and just out of nowhere you get blindsided by something. And in your case, that was this situation here, right? And you now have a giant setback, and you have a couple of options in life, right? You can either sit back and let life fade away and go ahead of you without you, or you can figure out how to take care of this problem, deal with it, and then figure out how to push forward again. And so let's talk about how you did that. So.
yeah, I mean, it almost seems naive to think that setback's not going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Looking back, it's like
Yeah.
you should just be waiting for it. Because so yeah, I mean, I was 15, young and dumb. I healed
Well,
super fast.
let's be clear. At 15 years old, you pretty much know everything in the world right now at that point in age, right?
You're right. You're right. There was no doctor that could tell me how to rehab. But I mean, yeah, you're pretty knowledgeable when you're 15. But I tried to take the advice of the doctors, and I was fortunate enough to have a great surgeon. He fixed me up, and I actually that was in March, and I was good to go for right on time for Duluth. And
Perfect.
it was just a summer of training, and I was like, when you're 15, you don't really look at it as like, you know, I gotta come back stronger. You look at it like, hey, I mean, I'm a kid. Like, I'm gonna go to rehab, and I'm gonna do all my sports, and hopefully I can, do my school sports still and go racing next winter.
Yeah.
And so I healed very well from that, and my mentality was just kind of like, yeah, well, we're gonna race at Duluth, I mean,
Yeah. Well,
we're in it now, so we're gonna be in it.
yeah, and one thing you mentioned to me on the phone was that you know knee pads and knee supports have become a pretty crucial piece of your safety equipment. Why don't you dive into that just for a second of kind of what maybe you used to wear, if anything, and then up to what you're wearing now, and the difference in really getting the right kind of safety equipment for the job.
Yeah, when I had that wreck, I mean, I had like hockey pads on. You know what I mean? I mean, like what you would see some kid on a PW50
Yeah.
riding with, just the strap-on little kneecap protectors, basically. And
Yeah.
I learned real quick, you've got to have something better than that to support your knees. And so immediately after that, we got the CTI knee braces. They're custom fit. They make a mold to your leg, and they fit really well, and so they keep from hyperextension and twisting and everything like that. So yeah, I learned very fast, and I can't stress enough, if you're going to ride and ride hard, it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're racing, you're mountain riding, you're trail
Yeah.
riding. If you're going to ride hard, you got to get some good protection, because
Yeah.
it's not worth the big injuries like that.
Yeah. Well, and just from my own experience, right, is things like knee pads is something that I've been just a recreational rider my whole life. I grew up in Minnesota in the Midwest. Rode recreationally as a kid all the way up, and safety equipment was a helmet, right? Like other than that, you just stayed warm. That was your goal, and
Right.
really up until about a year or two ago. I hadn't been wearing knee pads at all, and I had tried a set of knee pads, but they didn't fit me right, and they didn't feel good, and it just it was uncomfortable, and it didn't make it, didn't, and so I kind of lost interest. And then this last year, actually, with one of my sponsors, Fly Racing, that sponsors the show here as well, is they got me set up with their 5 pivot knee guards that they sell on their website. And oh my God, like finally I found a set of knee pads that were comfortable, that had some side to side, support. They go from, your boots all the way up to almost your mid thigh and really add some extra support. And I'm finding that just simple things like crawling up and down the back of the truck to fill it on my sled deck with fuel, or, when I'm out riding, I'm not worried about hitting something. And I actually had a situation, I think it was in February. I was out riding and I was side hilling through some old burnt trees, and I was letting my leg dangle and kind of walk in the snow, and my leg was dangling down. And a tree branch caught my pants. And at first, when it first hit, I didn't even think much of it, and I was just kind of riding through the trees, and I kind of got up to a place where it was clear, and I stopped, and I looked down, and I'm like, oh my God, I just exploded my snow pants, like I completely shredded, like almost like somebody shot it with a shotgun is what it looked like, and
Oh, yeah.
my pants had just destroyed them. But luckily, I was wearing my knee pad, and I looked, and the knee pad itself had like a puncture in it, that if I
Man,
literally wasn't wearing the knee
imagine.
pads, I would have ended up with stitches, right? And so
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
I was upset my snow pants got shredded, but I was thankful that I was wearing those knee pads that day, short of having a pretty serious injury, frankly, because it was super sharp and very rigid,
right.
stick that hit me. And so, man, whether you're a recreationalist or you're a pro rider, something like a knee pad makes a big difference in your riding.
Well, it's crazy too how, like you said, I mean, I have so much more comfort when I wear knee
Oh yeah,
braces. I mean, I
confidence.
really, yeah, confidence, and I almost feel more secure. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know how to really describe it, but when I don't wear my knee braces, like I say, if I'm up north and I just hop on a snowmobile to, take it to the neighbor's house or something,
yeah.
I feel almost naked, It's like
Well,
I'm missing something.
Well,
And
most of our sleds nowadays, whether it be a trail sled or a mountain sled, where I'm out here, is they have very aggressive running boards, right? The grips on the
yeah,
running boards have very sharp, aggressive things, and it's very common to your foot to slip off your running boards at some point, and your knee to hit your running boards. And I've seen way too many people get their knees completely sliced up just from that
oh yeah,
simple accident like that. And it's stitches, and it's just simple stuff. And to your point, that confidence that it builds to be able to have it. It's comfortable. It's actually more comfortable because you're not banging your knee and bruising them all the time. And then on top of that, you just have that confidence of
exactly.
being able to ride because you feel secure. It's like when you get used to wearing a seatbelt in a car, you get in and like it feels weird not to have one on if if you're not used to it. So
Yeah, definitely, man. I totally agree. I mean, they've made a huge difference in my career, honestly. I mean, it's not
yeah,
something to be overlooked. These
yeah,
are important.
yeah.
I'm
And so
really
let's
bad
yeah.
because of that.
Yeah, and so that's a great story, and I think a lot of lessons learned through that story there. But what was next? You want to go to another high or another low? Well, let's continue on with the rest of your career and some of the highs and lows.
Yeah, I'll take you through the timeline. So after that, what were we? We were battling for sport class. So I was kind of getting into my sport class days, and you get your butt kicked for a couple of years just trying to find your speed. Um, and I don't think, yeah, I did actually. The next year, I had another injury, and we were pretty close. Actually, 2 years later, we were pretty close to battling for a championship. I was in second, and same thing, Lake Geneva. I got a nice scar on my wrist. Jump and landed completely sideways and doesn't get blood flow or anything. So that was actually, I kind of forgot about that, but that was actually like a 5 month recovery.
Wow.
I had to be in a cast and everything, and it didn't heal right, so they had to do surgery on it, and it was a crazy injury. And then so kind of fast forward to a couple of years later, we were battling for the championship. We were the points leader in the sport class. That was actually one of the most fun seasons of my life. My dad and I, we were just having a great time. Um, and when you're battling for a championship and you're doing good, it seems like everything just clicks. Like you just stay out of trouble, and you don't know why, but you're like, wow, like I probably should have gotten bottled up there, but I didn't. And
Well, there's something
it's
to be
just
said. There's something to be said, and it's you said it on the phone, and I'll kind of repeat it here. Is you kind of find your rhythm or your groove, right? And it's like any
Yeah.
racer, whether it be snowcross racing, motocross racing, stock car racing, NASCAR racing, like people find this quote unquote groove and they find their pattern and their rhythm, and everything just kind of ticks and works, and you kind of can stay consistent with it. And especially in snowcross racing, I'm sure you're almost on a weekly basis or race basis, right? I don't know how often you race, if it's monthly or whatever it is, but you're racing a lot of the same people, and so everything feels very familiar. You've got that
Right.
rhythm, you got everything going on, and you just got this momentum moving. So
Yeah, and then there's just it's so weird. I mean, it's momentum, it's skill because you're obviously in the position to battle for a championship. You've got the skill, but then it's almost like there's a ton of luck too, and it's just so hard to describe. You just have to live it to understand it. But it's like you almost crashed, and you're like, how did I save that? It
yeah,
must be because I'm going for the championship, and just but then it all came crashing down at New York. So we had like a 40-point lead, and I got landed on right on the hole shot. They had the hole shot right into a whoop section, and I got the hole shot. And then somebody behind me got really squirrely, and they landed right on the back of my sled and sent me into a hole in the
wow,
whoopser, like 8 foot deep. And then he actually doubled right into me, and I was just
oh
laying
no,
in the bottom, and he ended up hitting me front end of his sled right into my stomach and lacerated my liver
oh man,
and got airlifted. So it was pretty bad. And anybody can relate to this. When you're in that position and that happens, it's like, what? Why did that just happen?
yeah,
I mean, it's tough to accept. And so that was one of the lowest points there because I felt like I really deserved that championship. And I mean, I'm not crying the blues because it made me who I am today.
yeah,
But just one of those things where it's like, hey, you know what? We could be down about it, or we could make it better and come back stronger.
yep,
And
absolutely,
that just to my surprise, we tried to race the rest of the season and just was still injured, and it was tough. I ended up second, which hurt. But then I got an offer from Christian Brothers at Lake Geneva
yeah,
to ride in pro light. So I was like, hey man, there's there's always a plan, right? There's always a
yep,
plan. So it worked out there. Yeah, it worked out there great. And then I got, I was fortunate enough to ride for Christian Brothers, and there's so many. I can keep going into the stories because I could keep going all night, man. It's just um,
yeah,
Christian Brothers was super good. My first year with them, uh, my first year was that with them actually wasn't good. First year in pro light, we kind of had our sled was lacking a little bit, so I rode really bad, and my best finish was like a fourth. And I
okay,
just remember that summer, I'm like, like I gotta change something. And we worked hard all summer, and the next year battling for the championship.
yeah.
So right to the high, and we were battling with Daniel Benham all year, swapping wins, swapping podiums,
When you talk about
and that
working hard all summer, why don't you dive into that just for a minute and tell us what that means? Is it a stringent workout routine, dietary restrictions? Like, what are you doing to kind of quote unquote work over the summer to get ready?
well, back in the pro light days, I'm going to be honest, it wasn't too much dietary restrictions. Um,
Cheeseburgers and milkshakes? Is that what's going on?
I didn't eat bad, but I
Yeah,
didn't like super strict like I do now.
yeah,
It was more mental, like, hey, let's just go back to having fun.
yeah.
Let's train good and work super hard, but let's just enjoy it, right? And
I'm
that's the
gonna
biggest.
I'm going to stop you there for a minute because that's a really critical piece that I want people to just. We're all about life lessons in this show too, right? It's like if we have an opportunity to kind of like have some metaphor in life here, I'd take advantage of it. And what you just stated is almost word for word what your good friend Jesse Kirschmeyer said here just a week or two ago, right? And
I'm not
so,
surprised.
yeah, like, he's known as Showtime, right? And like, he's just known for having fun, this big, fun, jovial guy. And he expressed the same thing. It's like at the point that he let go of the stress of trying to just quote unquote be the best all the time and get stressed about it and kind of get what's everybody else doing, like he just started focusing on himself and focusing on
Right.
why is he here, right? Like, we're just here to have fun, right? And if you can
Yeah.
have fun, don't take yourself seriously, but take what you're doing seriously, And it's
Yeah.
like you can and that's one thing that between Jesse, of course, but right away with you too. Like I complimented you on the phone the other day. I'm like, dude, like in a very quick fashion, like I can just tell, like I can see into your soul, buddy, and you're a good man, and it just comes through in the way you communicate and the way you speak, and to point, like it just you're willing to just let loose and have a little bit of a good time, but in a very
Yeah.
professional manner, right? It's not like you're out, boozing and doing all the crazy things and, all the things that people think of when they're partying all the time, right? But it's more about just, again, don't take yourself so seriously and just figure out like how do you help people around you and just have fun with it, right? And that's when people over and over and over again continue to talk about that's the moment in their lives that success comes to them. They go from being a pessimist to an optimist, and things just come together for them. And so I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm thankful that you let me highlight that for you.
It's just crucial, man. And I think a lot of racers are different, but I'm definitely the kind of guy that I got to be having fun with it. I got to be in a good mood. It's got to be light. Let's crack some jokes.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the year that I learned that. After that tough first year with Christian Brothers, obviously they had me back to race for them, and I kind of learned, hey, you got to have fun with it. And if you're not going to have fun with it, then why are you doing it? And you're also not going to get good results.
Yeah.
And I used to always say, well, I'll have fun when I'm winning. But that's not the key. The key is you have to have fun in order to win.
When, and another metaphor in life here I'll share with you quick is, winning when you're keeping score should be a byproduct of what you're really doing, right? It shouldn't be the target. It shouldn't be the goal. It should be the byproduct, because if you're doing an awesome job, you're having fun doing it, people around you are going to brace you up and push you up. And I'm going through that right now personally at work right now too. I've shared with folks out there that 2 weeks ago I was notified I lost my job. And it's like, you can sit there, be down in the dumps, and you can be upset about it, or you can just continue to do what you do, which is to stay positive, have a positive mindset, support those around you. Like, it's amazing in a situation when I'm in where I'm at. It's like, my idea is like, okay, how can I help my other coworkers who are going through the same thing and support them? And as I'm leaving, like, as I'm exiting my role, like, how can I help the teams that are going to continue to be successful behind me? Like, I want my legacy to be that Jon Ferrian was the guy that helped everybody out along the way. Because guess what? The day that I need a job, or the day that you're going to win a race, like, people are going to support you. They're going to be there for you, and they're going to, push you up, right? It's all about that. So.
Definitely, man. And it's that's huge. The mental side of it is the biggest part. And if you can just try to have fun with your life, it's gonna pay dividends, and you'll find that success will find you, like you said. And
Live
so
large.
back to the racing, that is that year that I really learned a very important lesson in racing and life. And I had a lot of fun that summer. I worked all summer, and I had a super good time. Rode a lot of dirt bikes, trained very hard, and I just had fun. And I went into the next season with that mindset, and boom, I kind of was like optimistic, and at the same time, let's have a good time. And then before we knew it, we won a race, and then we were just on the podium all the time and enjoying it.
Good for
And
you.
yeah, that was a great season. Definitely one of the most fun seasons of my career. The team was great. The vibe was great. I remember rolling to the starting line, and it's so hard to describe, like I said, but like I rolled the starting line, and I was like, yeah, I mean, we're just gonna go win this. It
Yep.
was as easy as that, and I knew when I had it. Like I
Yeah.
just sit there and I'd be like, yeah. My Brian was my mechanic. I look at him like, yeah, I think we're gonna win tonight, and I just knew it,
Yeah.
and that was also the best feeling. I mean, you can't pay for a better feeling.
Yeah. No, that's
And
amazing.
on those nights, we won. And then there would be nights where I'm like, you know what, dude? I think I don't feel like I'm winning. I feel like I'm gonna be on the podium, but I don't know if I got it, And sure enough, I'd start in like sixth, I'd get third,
Yeah.
and that was just like being a realist. I mean, I'm like, hey, honestly, tonight I don't think I'm gonna win, but I know I got the speed to be on the podium. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
that
So
was
by
like,
the way, our good mutual friend here, Kim Thornton Woody, is here watching and cheering us on. So she says hi, and just a shout out to Kim here, who's sponsoring the show tonight, right? And if you haven't already done so, in honor of Kim, let's throw it out there again. Let's share the show out tonight, because tonight's the night you're gonna we win a Woody's racing hat and some Idahoan potatoes. And we've got a Thursday night here, which is kind of off cycle, and so our live viewership isn't quite what it is normally on a Sunday night, but that's the perfect reason that we need to share it out. So keep sharing it out. You guys can win some awesome prizes, and we're just about to wrap this up. But let's go back to you, Jake, and I know you're about to probably get into kind of your final pro season now, right? That we started, right?
yeah, yeah. So after that great year, I was hit with another setback, snapped my leg clean in two. So unfortunately, the next season I tried to, plan was to back up the second place that we got and go for the championship, and my body just wasn't doing it. Just didn't have the strength, and we ended up really bad again. So that was like, again, highs and lows, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
you always tested, and we just kind of put our chin up after last season. I was like, man, I've just had enough, and kept working hard, and then got a call from Zanster Motorsports, and I'm like, listen, I know I can run the pro class. Like last year I was injured, and next year I know what I can do. And they gave me a shot. We came in rookie season in the pro class, and last summer too, I did the same thing. I just had fun, and I trained and worked and just had fun with life. And I knew that was like what you got to do coming into the season. And the season went great. I mean, double podium our first weekend, and great vibe with Zanster Motorsports. I mean, we had so much fun, and like we say, man, that's the key to success. We just had a good time. My teammate and I. We just had fun, and the season showed we unfortunately got injured, but we were third in points, and just unforgettable season, unforgettable, and I just can't wait to keep going.
Yep.
Super excited.
So it's the perfect time to talk about your strategy and your plan for this coming season quick before we wrap this up tonight. So what's your dream and your vision for next season? What's in the works for you?
Next season, definitely front runner on the pro class. I mean, we were like I said, we were top 3 in points. We were third in points. So next season, we're battling for a championship, man. Just working hard this summer. We're on a good training program. Feel really confident about it. The vibe is good. We're helping a bunch of kids out with this poster project. I'm hoping to impact a bunch of lives there, and just help the sport out coming in next season. With a smile on my face and some confidence. Definitely some confidence. And we're ready to rip, man. So
hopefully you'll see a bunch of those kids that you've impacted over the summer. So
I hope so. And honestly, a big thing about this project is I know that there's a lot of kids that they can't make it to the race and go to the autograph signings. So I'm like, these kids, they want a poster, right? Well, let's get a poster.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, this page you've got going and a project is even post-COVID, you might find that, there's an opportunity to continue this on and to reach out to those race fans that maybe are in other states and other parts of the world even, and, want to follow along and be part of it. So
hoping we can expand this and go, internationally. I mean, that would be amazing, right? If we could somehow get that worked out. And I know I can probably get into Canada, but I mean, there's a lot of fans overseas too that want stuff like that. And if this thing expands enough and there's enough interest, that's definitely not out of range. So we're just gonna try to blow this thing up, man. Just having fun with it.
That's awesome. Perfect. So we do have one question that fell in here at the end is, questions for you, Jake. It's from Dennis Faldorf. I don't know if I'm Faldorf is his last name. It says, would you ever consider long distance races such as Cane's Quest or Iron Dog? I'm assuming you're familiar with those races. And have you ever considered racing a race like that versus Snowcross?
I've heard about the Iron Dog, and I know that's super hardcore. I'm sure they say the same thing about Pro Snowcross, but I've talked about it, and if the opportunity presents itself, I think that might be a race that you do kind of when you're exiting the sport of snowcross, and then you're still trying to stay in it. Man, I would love to do that. I mean, I'd love to race some cross country races. I mean, they're all over Minnesota, and I was teammates with Zach Kirkendall. He's a multi-time champion in the cross country class, and it was awesome to watch and just to ride that stuff. And coming from somebody who rides trails, I think that it'd be a good time. But the Iron Dog is very hardcore. That's like you'd have to really be ready for that. So hey, maybe it's in the cards one day. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, those races are about 2,200 miles for Iron Dog, and I think it's close to 3,000 miles for Cane's Quest. Iron Dog, of course, is in Alaska, and Cane's Quest is up in Labrador, which is very northern parts of Canada. And we've had actually a number of guests on from both of those races, and I've gotten quite a few relationships built with some of those teams. And so if you ever legit want to get connected with any of those teams or figure out how it goes, I can make that introduction happen for you. So
I am going to keep you in mind then, because that's not a bad idea. I mean, like I said, I'm a snowmobile racer, and if I can't race snowcross, I want to do something. So That would
Yeah.
be that.
Well, and I think bridging the communities together to some degree, right? I think, they're very different styles of races, but they both can, I think having a crossover of someone like yourself who is already well known in snowcross going over and providing, even if it's just kind of an expedition type of a race, or, kind of, I don't know what they call it. I'm thinking of a different word, but it's not coming to me. But, you're going there just to showcase that you're participating in a race like that, even if you don't feel like you're a legit contender, but you probably would be. Either way is you're highlighting that race series and you're actually bringing fans from snowcross over there, and at the same time you're going to then see snowcross or race fans of these iron dog races and these other races who will then highlight the snowcross. So it would only grow the sport in a positive way if you're ever wanting to consider that. So
Exactly. I could see it possibly in my late 20s. I mean, just,
yeah,
a few years when I'm getting a little bit too old to, to race pro snowcross anymore. I would
careful
love
now,
to do that.
careful now. We just get chrome. We don't get old. We just chrome ourselves. So
I'm starting to get some white hairs going. So, I mean, I might be getting there. I don't know. We'll see. But right
awesome.
now, we're just looking for a championship. That's my main goal right now. And that's that motivation that's going to keep me kind of towards that, keep moving forward and keep working hard is we
Yep.
want a champion so bad. And I think
Awesome.
we're close. So
Awesome. Well, I think we're at that point where we're going to wrap this up, but I'm going to give you an opportunity to kind of any final words, any final thank yous you want to provide. I know earlier you recognized some of the sponsors that helped you with the, the Snowcross Poster Project. But if there's any other sponsors, family members, anybody important in your life that you want to say thank you to, or a shout out to the folks who are watching the show, anything you want to share with them before we wrap it up?
Well, thank you to everybody who tuned in, and I guess my parents. That's huge, right? I mean, if you're an up and comer or you've already made it, I'm sure your parents have been involved and they've helped out, and so never forget that, and never forget who helped you from the bottom, when you started, and then obviously there's a lot of people that contribute along the way, and I'm super thankful for that. But if I wouldn't have had parents that wanted this dream as bad as I did, I wouldn't be here. So I can say all day, oh yeah, I worked so hard for it. But at the end of the day, my parents started it. They started, and then I had to take it from there. And so, super thankful for my parents. And yeah, I think that everybody should be thankful for their parents.
Amen.
So, amen, brother.
Cool. Any other final words before I wrap it up?
Well, thanks so much for having me on. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. And like I said, 727projects@gmail.com. Name and address. I'll get you guys a package. So
awesome.
I look forward to sending.
Nope, that's fantastic. And so my final words for everybody is always, don't forget to share this out. Get in on the awesome prizes that Woody's Racing is providing tonight. And God bless everybody and live large. Have a great night, everybody.